Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So, my apologies, I'm still ill, there's still gonna be some sniffling around here, it is quite late, so please bear with me till I get through this, but we do need to carry on with our champion ranking series. So we have made it to what I deem to be the second strongest class in the game right now, and I am leaning well towards the Cosmic. Cosmic also does have two of the top 4 champions in the game overall, in my opinion, and we're going to get to it. Before that, standard disclaimer, this is the way I see the game. I use current game relevance and trends, plus my own personal experience and opinions to form these. It's perfectly fine if you see it differently. I'm not trying to insult your ancestors or you or, pick a fight. You can absolutely discuss the placements in the comment section, make your own lists, all that stuff's perfectly fine. And I primarily focus on the champions that are doing well in the competitive aspects of the game, in Battlegrounds and in Alliance War, because I strongly believe that the champions that people use when losing matters are the ones that have the most value. These are the champions that the most skilled players invest the catalysts in, signature stones in, rank up materials, and they invest their time in learning, the exact matchups for good reason, because they do the job, they get things done. And they also function extremely well just about anywhere and everywhere else in a game. There will obviously be situations when a champion that's great for competitive games is not as great for some other areas, especially if that champion's kind of like defensive focused. But overall, these champions will also be fantastic just about anywhere else in the game. And additionally, if a champion is good for like questing and 9.3 stuff like that, I typically don't give that too much value, because that is all content you are guaranteed to beat eventually anyways, because you can revive through it, you can practice through it, you can adjust the teams that you bring in, and guess what, a ton of champions are good for all of these things. But what we are focusing on is the champions that perform the best when losing a game actually matters. When you get KO'd in a quest, you can just restart the path, you can revive, you can do all that stuff. When you lose a Battlegrounds match or an Alliance War, there's no do-over. You have lost that match and nothing's going to change that. So, let's get to it. We are carrying on with the Cosmics. So, the old list for the Cosmics was Serpentanos, Dark Phoenix, Knull, Caroline, Dean, Galan, Medusa, Scream, Venom, and Maestro. And this one's actually hasn't changed that much. The one thing that I want immediately put into the disclaimer is that I am not ranking Hulkling. I know that people will, because every single one of these champions that just got released and we haven't actually had the chance to use or see them get used or know what meta impact they're making, I have gotten a comment about. Like, how this champion should be in there and that, like Scorpion's better than half of the list that you wrote here and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm not ranking them yet because they're just now out, basically. So Hulkling is not ranked. I wanted to make that clear. Hulkling is not on this list. Hulkling would be in approximately spot number 6, I'd probably say 7 maybe. Somewhere around that area. He would be in top 10, not in top 5. That's where I'd currently put Hulkling. Maybe in top 5, we'll see. But he would be either bottom of top 5 or in top 10 somewhere. But I'm not ranking him. So, spot number 15. And this is kind of funny. I'm going to give it to Venom now. Because it hasn't been too long since we have gotten accustomed to the new buffed up powerful version of Venom the Duck. And he is quite an impressive champion. Now, I do think that Battlegrounds is not necessarily going to be his forte, because he still needs, ramp ups. But this is me kind of going out on a limb a little bit, but at the same time, I can absolutely see him doing plenty of work. Again, I do not think it has been like long enough to kind of like definitively see how well or bad he is going to end up doing. But he does have quite an impressive damage output even in that first fight, and he does have some very good and useful matchups. Now, that said, you can easily make an argument here for a plethora of other Cosmic champions that didn't quite make the list. I didn't include Gladiator, I didn't include Beta Bill, but the fact of the matter is that I don't think they really quite deserve to be here. Cosmic has always been kind of like top stacked level class, and I do think there is a quite drastic fall off in the last like several spots, at least last handful of spots. which is like one of the reasons why Cosmic isn't at the tippy top, is because I do feel like Cosmic has like a lot of its power concentrated in like top 4, top 5 champions. And I still think Venom that could be potentially number 15. Now, no, like again, I fully understand that people are not down with it, and again, I do think you could replace it with Phoenix. I do think Scream is probably going to be something that more people want to place up there Venom deck. But the thing with Scream, realistically, is I don't see Scream anywhere. Really don't. I don't remember when it has been the last time I have seen Scream in BG's period, I think. But there you go. So I'm for now giving it to Venom the Duck. I know most of you probably pick Scream. Anyways, let's move on to spot number 14, and that's Noah. Now, Noah has definitely suffered as well because of this new age mystic champion kind of like glow up offensively. He used to be significantly scarier defender than he is right now. However, he still has obviously his tricks up his sleeve. And one of the biggest things with Noah is that at max sig he extends the durations of the buffs by 80%. And this often makes him like an almost impossible champion to deal with, as long as there's like some unstoppable buffs involved and a handful of other things. That is like such a massive thing to contend with, and if you do not have a counter that is basically unbeatable kind of fight, you obviously still do want to protect him from majority of the mystic champions that would tear through him. Additionally, he is more than capable attacker that people do kind of underestimate, in my opinion. There's some excellent gameplay on my channel as well as elsewhere on YouTube, because he does have quite few matchups that he is capable of doing due to his true strike, due to his non-contact medium hits, and the way he delivers damage and ramps up is quite unique as well. Did get quite significant boost with the relics when those came out, buffing him further. And yeah, so he's a dual-purpose champion that's not currently the most relevant, but still absolutely packs a punch, does deserve to be respected, has specific conditions where he excels greatly, and is kind of still underrated offensively, in my opinion. He's also like one of those champions that, you know, has very good alliance word placements often, and yeah, still absolutely carries value, in my personal opinion. Moving on to Vox. Vox has always been a bit of an unsung hero in the game. The way I see it, he never kind of like got to that, you know, okay, he's a top Cosmic champion option, and I don't think he ever has been, but he's been quietly chugging along. For those who know, they do know how good he is and why, and it is largely because of the way he delivers damage, and his undermine is super helpful, as well as his vigilance. So he has a very good ability to bypass miss that effectively, once you get your first level 2 off, is online permanently. And then Undermine's also like just like a permanent ability to completely ignore auto block is kind of becoming more significant. The fact that he doesn't really rely much on attack modification also does help him in some less than standard matchups. Like he's a very solid ELN counter, for instance. There are other tips and tricks that do come into play, because he's immune to special lock, power drain, power burn. That is a huge list of immunities when it comes to power modification. And again, there are times when there are very few champions that actually like do have this, and it kind of matters a lot. Obviously, he has the ability to stack up a ton of buffs, which again interacts with other things in the game, and also actually makes him like an amazing incursion champion, but obviously that is not as significant. One of the cool things is that his corroded buffs are 300% ability accuracy, so he kind of bypasses neutralize as well on top of all of that set of immunities. And yeah, I think I think I placed him relatively well. He's not like a mainstream staple type of champion in the game. He's definitely one of those champions that is capable of much more than most people realize, and he absolutely has his times to shine, and it's just a very good and healthy thing to have access to this guy in order to, you know, fully utilize his kind of like unique nature of the way he inflicts degens and how much he can extend on it. And there we go. Moving on, Maestro. Now, Maestro, like, without a doubt, has caught a lot of strays. Maestro has suffered a ton, like many other Cosmic defenders, because of the existence of Serpent, Thanos, and Dark Phoenix, because again, that means that people do focus more on the Mystic class. We have gotten some new, very strong Mystic champions that also happen to absolutely nuke down Maestro. And he's also, I'd argue, the weakest one of them offensively. So Maestro is nowhere near as scary as he used to be. There are a set of counters to him, but at the same time, he absolutely is a defender that can catch people off guard, that can get you dubs. and that you do need to account and counter for. Now, he is a champion that you do get to see still from time to time. I'd say he's kind of like at a similar level. I'd compare, I guess, to a Tuma now, or some other defenders like Killmonger, maybe, to a degree where, he's not going to be very dangerous or scary all the time. But then again, like, when you do have to face him without a good counter, it's rough, and it's bad, and it's sad. And on attack, he does have his uses. His damage is marked here as 2.5, but honestly, like, when he's maxed out, max sig, and if you can be quite aggressive in a fight, he puts in work offensively too. He has access to that pierce, so he can do like fam fights. There is a subset of champions that he can be reasonably good against, I would say. But still, a solid defender, just like nowhere near as capable as at the prime of his powers, I would say. Moving on to spot number 11, and I'm giving that to Medusa. And Medusa got a tune-up, and I think it was a good, effective tune-up. I think she's capable. Again, she completely can shut off robots. I think she's still like one of the best robot kind of like killing machine in general, where you completely disable their combat power rate and just can completely wail at them. They tuned her up quite well, moving a lot of her utility to the base kit, giving her an ability to counter evade, which is actually massive and can be tremendously helpful. The only issue is, again, that you do need to shatter the armor on the opponents, and if there's like things that's messing with you, it can be a bit tricky, difficult at times. But as soon as you get that armor shatter on, basically build up to your first level 1, you have a constant evade counter, and that holds quite a bit of power. Obviously, she does have a reasonably good amount of damage. She is quite nuky. If you can especially bleed the opponent and there's nothing else kind of like capping your damage output, you can finish out the fights well fast. And yeah, I do think that, again, like, because she got released, so she got buffed around the same time Scream got released, and out of the two champions, I think she definitely has performed better and is more meaningful. Also, she does have some defensive value as well with her auto block and being able to parry on that. Unfortunately for her, heavy attacks exist, and there's still plenty of champions that are capable of dealing with that. But there's a bit of that dual use aspect in here, and in general, I am happy to have a 7-star Medusa. As I said in my Glorious Guardians ranking video, I don't think she's necessarily done better than, let's say, Sentinel has in the game, because she hasn't, but overall, she has had her times to shine for sure. When you need quick, easy access to armor breaks, evade counters, quite capable of that. Unfortunately, like, part of the reason why she can't really place higher is because Kabam has decided that, armor break immunity or armor shatter immunity or pseudo immunity, those things, is perfectly reasonable thing to give to tech champions. So there are like more and more things that she can't do at the same time. But she's extremely simple, extremely effective for what she is. And having a very solid damage output, good interactions with some synergies with some other nodes and abilities in the game. You enjoy her a lot. I think she's a solid champion. And I completely understand everybody who would want to kind of like rank her higher as well. Next up, Venom. And Venom, again, is kind of aging very nicely. And every once in a while, Kabam's releasing like new spiders that Venom just gets to eat. And that has kind of happened with Venom, because initially when he was like one of the launch pool 7 stars, he kind of like got a lot of attention. Then, with the relics coming in, that gave him a lot of attention because of the Venom relic. There was like a massive boost to his speed, and it's two completely different champions, Venom with and without the relic. And then he kind of went away a bit, and then again, Spider-Woman became more popular. Spider-Ham is still, running around on the defense, and all of a sudden the man's a menace again. So I do think the thing about Venom in general is he's very effective, very fast, crazy good when he works. There's a ton of times when he doesn't quite work again, because he does rely on that bleed. He does, need to have like a specific type of matchup, and it will not always work out the best, especially because we do have like more and more like unique and specific defenders. So he doesn't have the widest matchup spread, but as a very simple, aggressive, efficient type of answer to some of the problems in the game currently, I think he fulfills that role very, very well. Other than that, he fits into the cosmic archetype well. He has, you know, a lot of buffs. He accesses them easily. He has access to armor break if you need one against the tech champion. He, again, has the dots and very good damage output. Then there are a few things that he's kind of a bit, you know, unique more on, like you can deal with opponent's buffs to a degree by nullifying them. I think that is a very cool piece of utility, and triggering your regen, so that's kind of helpful, again, to recover the chip damage. And thank God it's not based on like missing health. I hate every single regeneration effect that's based on missing health. Every single time I see a regen that's based on a missing health, I just think that it's kind of like wasted regen. I think it's a bad effect, basically. I think of it as a regeneration that could be so much better. Yeah, and obviously you do have like basically the cash out level 2. So again, for how old the champion is, how old the buff is, I think he's holding up tremendously well. Still, we can see him again, maybe not constantly, but again, in Alliance Wars, in Battlegrounds, he has plenty of game time for a champion. And on top of it all, just like Medusa, he's also like a very capable, fun, nice, cool questing champion around the game. And I do love that. And yeah, whenever there's like a tricky Spider-Man boss, more often than not, Venom also goes in to take care of business, which I love. 1 second. I apologize for that. I had just like a massive sneeze. But yeah, I do think that Venom has aged tremendously well. He still absolutely does have a place in the game. And I think of many champions, he actually is quite likely to have a place in the game in, you know, future years to come. Because Kabam seems slow making new Spider characters that all seem to get kind of like wrecked by destroyed by Venom. It's kind of fitting, I suppose, and I mean, he has fairly good job security, I suppose, because every year we get some new spiders, and, you know, quite often they are good and significant champions. So there you go. Venom, the company man, putting in work behind the scenes since 2014. 2015, I guess. Right, let's move on. Hyperion. Now, Hyperion's a bit more interesting placement, because, you know, for a while he definitely had kind of like disappeared from the public consciousness. But recently, absolutely has made a comeback. And a big part of that has been the skip level 3 thing, because Hyperion obviously gets to level 3 incredibly quickly and fast. And now that you can skip through the animation, his, you know, speed and timing has improved. And then he always has had some of the most unique ways to play him due to the fact of how much extra power you gain. And that still reigns true to this day. Hyperion has always been a definition of a champion that's not the best at any given particular matchup, but has often been like the second, the third best, the fourth best option. And I love that design. By the way, I do think Hyperion is the oldest, or one of the oldest champions that has never been tuned up or buffed, but that's still relevant. So I think it's a classic timeless design. As it rightly should. So what's so good against him? Obviously, like poison immunity, that's nice. Heavy attacks, 40% chance to gain Fury for 10 seconds. That's good, but again, with the right relic, obviously that chance does get improved and is quite meaningful. So basically, heavy to gain Furies. Those Furies are very potent, in fact, and, you know, he can access quite a lot of damage, especially if RNG is in a bit of your favor. Number 1, we have Special Attack 1 that inflicts incinerates, quite a lot of incinerates, quite potent incinerates, especially combined with those Furies. What is so great about that is the fact that it's only one contact hit and the rest of them are non-contact. So since ancient times, you could always use his ability to target and counter basically champions that inflict damage back at you, like Electro on nodes, like, you know, Thorns and things like that. And if you're like very skilled, you can avoid connecting the first hit of the special attack as well. But basically the idea is that level 1, you can basically almost use that exclusively, kind of slow play a bit, and do the fight with almost all or majority non-contact hits, which make it quite awesome. Then special 2, obviously we do have access to stun and armor break, and, you know, that is kind of like the bigger numbers that you can put up and go for like a pure damage rather than the dots. His level 3 basically gives him like 3 Furies. These are pseudo Furies, as we could call them. And at the same time, you do have the ability to convert these into regeneration, so he can regen. And that regeneration actually at the very least is not based on his missing health, and it is quite potent. So you can quite easily top him up with that also. Also, cosmic charges that he gains after level 3, and this is again something that is significantly more viable. Is each charge passively increase physical resistance, so he can get quite high physical resistance. Each charge increases attack rating, so that's again working as a pseudo fury, and you can convert these into a regen. Quite as simple as that. Additionally, he has increased cosmic, precision, power gain, and regeneration buff duration of any source. So that is quite significant as well. There you go. But yeah, a very simple champion that has aged beautifully, that has breath and new life into it due to level 3 skip. And again, you know, he's definitely not the most dangerous defender anymore, but under certain specific circumstances, when there's some extra power gain combined with his regular power gain, can be quite gnarly opponent to go up against without a mystic champion as well. So I genuinely feel like Hyperion's deserving spot number 9. Spot number 8 for now I'm giving to Imperiosa. Now again, full kind of like testing results of her obviously are not out yet. We haven't had her for that much of a time. However, she is at the very least somewhat competent defender that punishes mistakes incredibly hard. If you have fought Imperiosa, you can note that huge ass block damage that you might be taking. Obviously, she's not like a crazy insane defender, but still there is a lot of defensive kind of like power in there, the way you are meant to fight and counter her. And then offensively again, that fury buff is, you know, not insignificant at all. Plus the pierce buff is again giving some good favorable matchups there against Tex in itself. And she does have a unique way of using her, I suppose, and fairly potent corrosion debuff that's extremely rare, that just about nobody is immune to in the entire game. And she can hang it up indefinitely. I think she's very unique. Again, I do think we still need to fully kind of find our ground around her and figure out exactly how good or bad she's going to be. But number one, champions always at the peak of their powers, kind of like recently after being released. So I do think that Imperiosa right now poses a significant and massive threat as a defender. And I do think she is kind of like competent enough to also be a viable attacker. And that's where I stand right now. This is me going in a bit of a limp right now, but I do kind of expect her to be somewhat of a problem. I'm not sure if she's going to get as big of a glow up as like Solvark did, but I do think she has all the qualities to make it happen, or at the very least to stay relevant for foreseeable future. Obviously, she does have the fractured power bar, which is a bit of utility in itself, can be quite useful when you need to kind of like time your special specifically or target which special you need. Immunity to bleed, disintegrate, and power drain effects, that's quite, you know, a handy skill too. And the fact that she starts with like 2+ bars of power, also in specific conditions can make her uniquely qualified to answer some of the problems that the game might ask for us in the future. So as it stands right now, I'm giving Imperiosa a rank 8. I will fully admit that this is kind of like more of a estimation and guesswork rather than a full-on reflection on her, you know, job well done so far, basically. And let's move on then. Spot number 7 is Knull. And Knull's still perfectly viable champion. Knull can be, you know, fairly gnarly defender to go up against with his, you know, interaction with inequity, the pure amount of debuffs that you have. One thing that people do underestimate against Knull is that every 10 hits in the opponent's combo meter inflict indefinite darkness passive, lowering combat power rate by 15%. And this has been such a rude awakening call for some champions, like, you know, for instance, Yelena or Okoye or some other like champs that do stack up that combo meter very, very quickly. You basically get no power. So that also gives him like another kind of like set of champions that can't really counter Knull and are very, very bad against it. So I did want to kind of like point that out. And yeah, still a viable offensive champion, especially at higher sig. Can take decent enough list of matchups, and again can be quite formidable defender. Again, if he does happen to throw that level 1, fights often tend to get messy and complicated, especially if you can't kind of like nullify that corruption that's coming your way. Then you have to deal with reverse controls, and none of us love that. And yeah, stall, delay. The fact that he reduces the potency of degeneration, bleed, and poison, again, makes a lot of champions kind of slower against him, interacting with inequity. Again, not great, lowering opponent's combat power rate. He's more annoying than I remember him to be, but in reality, in practice, he can definitely be a little bit frustrating to go up against. So he's a solid dual-purpose champion. I don't think he's anything like exceptional outside of long-form content where he can truly shine. But I do think he's more than capable and competent, and there's a very good reason why we still see him quite constantly in all areas of the game. So again, another design of a champion that I think is aging quite well. Moving on, above now, I'm going to give it to Galan. And I'll be honest, when Galan got announced... One second. Sorry about that. When Galan got announced, I wasn't entirely sure how well he would have aged. And it turns out he has aged quite well. Because again, the way he delivers his damage through the harvest effectively bypasses all the regular damage mitigations outside of flat-out safeguard mechanic, sorry, not safeguard, but some damage cap mechanics, which basically means he's still viable for like a ton of solid and significant matchups. Because again, if opponent has like massive crit resistances or some physical resistances and all that stuff, it doesn't really matter. And as an end result, for instance, Galan is a perfectly capable Yelena counter. You know, obviously he deals with Soul Arc, deals with the majority of the tech class incredibly well. And he still has kind of like maintained a very solid list of matchups that he is quite capable and good against. So that has been like a massive W for him. Other things are the things that made him popular in the first place. Again, a fairly respectable list of immunities against any meddling with his power. That is great stuff. And then in those specific instances when he, his buffs will get nullified and stuff, he can ramp up significantly faster and turn into a pseudo nuke, which is always something you do want in a champion. Like specific set of circumstances that can turn that champion, massively more dangerous than they regularly are. And again, being a cosmic champion immune to nullify often means that he's one of the very few cosmic champions that works. And that also in itself skyrockets his value. Because we have so many times and instances when, Kabam loves putting in all sorts of power snack and buffet nodes and stuff like that, and you just can't viably, reasonably run most of the cosmics offensively, if any at all. And then there's Galan standing like a lone survivor king. He still works, and that's massive. And again, in combination with the fact that he does cover a lot of matchups that you'd want your cosmic champions to cover, and goes outside of the class wheel as well. Yeah, I think he's aged better than I initially thought he would have when his 7-star got announced. I think he's capable. I think he's very, very, very useful to have access to. I think there's still some defensive threat in Galan as well when he doesn't get nuked. And there we go. I think Galan is 6th best cosmic champion in the game right now. It's kind of sad. I wish he was 5. I kind of wish he was number 5. And, there's an argument for it. But spot number 5 is going to Knull. And Knull is very simple. Knull is just stupid levels of damage. That's all there is to it. The tune-up in combination with, the StatCast relics is working great with Knull. And if he can do the matchup, he's going to be like one of the best and fastest to do so. Under specific circumstances, his damage turns absolutely insane, which is ridiculous. But in general, it's also quite brutal. And the fact that he's still kind of like viable in today's game, again, comes down to number 1, the fact that StatCast relics actually help him quite a bit. Number 2, he has his true accuracy passive, which lets him, deal with auto blocks and evades extremely well. He can parry non-contact attacks. That is significant. And his route obviously gives him extra avenue for damage. There you go. And the tune-up did a solid job. honestly, like, if the balance program was live, I would think that Kabam would have tuned him down somewhat slightly, but balance program is no longer a thing, so I don't think you have to worry about it. Now, again, there will be obviously times when it might not necessarily be worth it to main Knull in your Battlegrounds deck, but and there will be nodes and matchups that he can't do, absolutely. But a very big part of the value in Call Obsidian lies in the fact that when he can do the fight, he's going to be one of the, if not the fastest options for that specific fight. And there is quite a lot of, again, quantitative value that comes with the ability to have the highest damage output or the speed in the fight. And other than that, again, as I mentioned before, his true accuracy and his, extra little bits of utility are proving to be kind of in fashion right now for most part, or the type of thing that is needed right now. Again, that, him being like a very reliable and solid await counter, for instance, from the first moment of the fight, has helped him massively in his usability, ability to bypass auto block, parry, non-contact attacks. All of that stuff's huge. And he kind of has just enough plus his damage to make it into a very, very deadly combination. There you go. I do think Knull is, very strong, very good, very capable, very much so worth investing, taking to rank 4, all that stuff. Moving on, spot number 4, and it's Caroline Dean. Caroline Dean, you could argue, is probably the best Cosmic Offensive champion right now. She does have also just about the best matchup spread in the game. She does have quite a unique playstyle where you can basically barely hit the opponent as long as you can maintain the positioning in the fight. And that in combination with his glancing ability, which is just stupidly powerful, is making her like the most capable cosmic attacker, I think. I think the only kind of like somewhat relevant tech champion that she doesn't nuke really has been like Penny Parker, basically. I'm not entirely sure how well she will do against Solvark now, though. But again, the fact that you can use her up against like Captain Britain with reasonably good results, you can deal with Yelena's using her. She's good against like Thanos. She's capable of somewhat doing Serpent as well, especially with her glancing. She just does have like a ridiculous list of matchups that she does very well. There's even wider list of matchups that she does quite well. It's, again, in a way, the way I look at Carolina Dean is kind of like a 2025 version of Hyperion. And there you go. She, again, like the biggest downsides of her, I guess, would be the reliance on the fact that it is incinerate damage, and going up against somebody that's pseudo or fully immune against incinerates is significantly harder. But at the same time, man, Catalina blocks a hit, consumes iridescence buff based on blocked to grant her glancing buff for the duration of the attack. This buff is removed with Catalina's track. When the opponent glances against Catalina, damage is reduced by 85%. So again, that alone like lets her take Bullseye, for instance, incredibly well. An offensive ability accuracy is reduced by 40%, so many of the abilities will fail. So quite often, for instance, she can randomly parry Photon, and Photon's not going to trigger invisibility and stuff. And obviously then access to energy vulnerabilities, which with the signature ability makes them significantly more potent. You can see it goes from like 3% to each iridescence buff gain 5% increase in incinerate potency. There you go. And that with energy vulnerability. She's incredibly versatile, unique cosmic attacker. That's how I'm going to put her. And I do think she's a staple in the game. She's absolutely a champion that you do want to have access to and you do want to learn how to use. And top 3 in Cosmic class is actually kind of like on the boring side. Let's start with number 3, the Dark Phoenix. And the Dark Phoenix, for a while was by far the most evil thing to exist in this game. And she took that mantle from like Bullseye and Enchantress or Serpent or whatever. But she really isn't anymore. As in, like, don't get me wrong, like, if you're without a counter, you're gonna hate your life fighting her. Even, like, as recently as yesterday when I was playing Battlegrounds, she did get under my nerves so much because she just randomly started throwing level ones. However, there are more counters that have come out. There are more champions that are somewhat decently okay capable of fighting her. And what's worse, what's most disgusting, Turns out that Captain Britain is fucking worse than she is. But okay. Still absolutely insane defender, man. It's like you never want to get caught with your pants down against the Dark Phoenix, man. It just feels so demoralizing and disgusting. She's exactly the type of champion that makes this game makes it less fun, it makes it less interesting. I believe it makes it less competitive. I think it makes it less, non-whale friendly and stuff like that. She's a champion that brings misery, and that's the purpose of her existence. That's all there is to it. And again, obviously, her defensive impact is not as huge as it once was because, Nico exists and now new Mystic Spidey can do the fight. And then we realized that, Okoye is very good against her and so on and so forth. So there are answers to her. Obviously, there are. And the biggest weakness on her for her as defense is that, for instance, unlike Serpent still often will take quite a bit of time, like 60 seconds or something close to it, even if you have a perfect counter. She goes down like a sack of potatoes, and the fight itself is quite a bit easier, unless something goes drastically wrong. But then again, on the other hand, if you don't have a counter, you're just screwed. Offensively, she's kind of underrated. I actually did quite well with her in the Coliseum as well, by the way. I think I cleared like 13, 14 bars with her. But yeah, offensively, she's definitely always been underrated. There are uses for her on attack as well. Definitely for like long form content too, because, drop some level 3s. There's a ton of no flame damage going on in the background. And then if you do happen to get KO'd, Immortality triggers in and you just automatically gain max full health. I actually use that in the Elder difficulty quest as well. I do think that regeneration that she has is quite insane. And then, yeah, obviously she has access to no flames, and nothing's basically immune to no flames, but a few champions are, so that has a value in its own. There is, a safeguard that she has that can be quite helpful. And she does have, again, some matchups where if you do draft her, for instance, opponent gets a counter, you can, kill most of the tech champions half decently with her, and, she's capable of dealing with other things, maybe not necessarily super fast because she is a ramp-up type of champion. But let's face it, like 90+% of the time, she's defender, and she's super annoying, and she's disgustingly bad and evil to fight. Moving on, Spider-Man 2 Serpent. I recently kind of ranked Thanos a slight bit ahead of Serpent. And previously, I did it the other way around, because I do think that Thanos, again, has lost some of his defensive aura. Sorry, Serpent has lost some of his defensive aura, and don't get me wrong. He's still absolute menace on defense. He really is. Again, the most balanced champion in the game. The reason why I actually like Serpent so much is because he's also one of the best attackers in the game, just not in Battlegrounds. Everywhere else in the game, if you take him in Necropolis, if you take him in story content, if you take him in incursions, if you take him in like some sort of challenge modes, attempt to pain type fights, on gauntlets and all that stuff, he's insane for it. Again, Kabam made such a busted defender that they accidentally made one of the best all-around attackers in the game too. And they just pumped him full with abilities. I feel like kind of filthy and disgusting even talking about him. It's like, what doesn't he have? Like, look how long that ability list is. It's ridiculous. So he obviously gains attack rating. He's immune to stun during the opponent's special attacks. And, he has obviously immortality with regeneration. Then look at his immunities. He's immune to power lock, special lock, heal block, fate seal. That heal block immunity is so clutch as well. Fate seal effect prevents his ability power rate from being reduced below 50% by non-mystics. Grant immunity to cold snap, reduce duration of bleed effects by 90%. So there's like a solid list of dot immunities too. Combat power rate is reduced by 30% and cannot be reduced further. Come on, man. He reduced the potency of incoming power rate and burn effects by 60%. It's like who made this? It's like a kid. It's like a 5-year-old kid that makes a superhero that has all the powers. That's literally it. It's like, and then he has laser eyes, and he has this, and then he can fly, and then he can breathe underwater, and he's super strong, and he's super fast, and he's like the smartest thing ever, and he's a genius, and he can control technology, and he can control animals, and he can read mind, and he can become invisible, and this is literally it. It is. It shouldn't have been done. again, a champion like this overall, in the grand scheme of things, has absolutely been a detriment to the game. But whilst he exists in the game, it is impossible not to realize how much value it has. It really, really, really does. So again, if Balgrons are not taken in consideration, Serpent is the best. Because he's also like one of the better attackers. If we do take Balgrons in consideration, I do value kind of slightly higher because he's almost equally as stupid. He also has a ton of abilities, not quite as much, but he also has like basically it's like one kid made Serpent and then his best friend tried to do the same thing and ended up with Thanos. That's basically what it is. Like two little dickheads arguing who has like the best superhero and giving them all the powers to their like champions. That's basically what happened. And again, what happens with Thanos? Obviously, easy to access arm break, armor shatter from the beginning of the fight. Easy to access heavy attack with that passive stun chain. Then we do have a solid list of immunities as well, right? Grant immunity, cold snap, frostbite, poison. Of course you do. Then he has his protections that, you know, lock in and basically shut down all the damage for like 2 seconds and several times in the fight. Obviously a massive defensive stall, but offensively as well, saves your butt quite often. Then let's move on. Thanos, He has energized buff, of course he does, and he has massively increased combat power rate. He can spam more special attacks. There you go. Counter punch. So you can get guaranteed intercepts and easy access to unstoppable whenever you want. Sure. Then he has panic debuff. Effective champions cannot evade or cause an attack to miss. So counters evade and miss. Great. You have your obviously Furies later on there, but charging heavy attack after non-combat attack inflicts stun. You do have Pulverize, getting rid of armor up buffs that already exist there. You have Armor Shatter, you know, completely decimating opponent's armor. Level 1, you gain a ton of potent Furies up to 8. And you do have ability to regen all your chip damage. In case you got hurt by utilizing that guaranteed intercept, you can recover that health for sure. Then you have again a special kind of dot that was basically unseen in the game up until he was released. Because of course you need a dot that nobody's immune to. And that's the boy. So, admittedly, Serpent won the amount of abilities fight, but Thanos won the damage fight. And there you go. I think right now, Thanos is kind of like edging up a bit because it is getting more dangerous to draft Serpent somewhat early on in the draft because again, Mystic attackers are getting crazier and crazier. And with Thanos, it is less dangerous because Thanos has more capabilities offensively for short to mid-length fights, which is why currently I value Thanos slightly higher. However, again, as I said, and fully open and honest here, Serpent's value for rest of the game, challenge content, Necropolis, etc., I think is somewhat bigger. But Thanos is not far behind there either, for being truthful. And then I do think Thanos is obviously the more capable Balgrons attacker, and is kind of like the better draft right now. So that's why I am putting Thanos slightly ahead there. There we go. That is the list. That is my reasoning. And here you go. Thanos, Serpent, Dark Phoenix, Carolina, Calobsidian, Galan, Knull, Imperiosa, Hyperion, Venom, Medusa, Maestro, Vox, Noah, and Howard the Duck. No, not Howard, Venom the Duck. But again, Venom the Duck is just kind of that. There's you know, I know somebody's gonna scream at me that it is not Gladiator. Somebody's gonna scream at me that it is not Super Skrull. But we'll see. I'll catch you guys later. Bye-bye. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next platform. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next platform. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next platform. Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about the next